Okay, everyone, here we go. Second half of the Cicero and the Catilinian conspiracy. Let's go on with this one then. First bit. On this, I, that ille consul, that violent consul, who drives I, that violent consul, who drives citizens into exile with a word, I asked of Catiline, quae sivi a Catilina, I asked of Catiline in nocturno conventu. I asked of Catiline whether necne, indirect question, whether or not he had been, necne, whether or not, fuiset, subjunctive. I asked Catiline whether or not he had been in the nocturnal meeting at the house of Maicus Lyca. Cum ille homo, when that most brazen man, most reckless man, convicted by his own conscience, convictus perfect passive participle, convicted by his own conscience, had at first been silent, primo reticuisset, I revealed patefeci cetera, I revealed everything, patefeci cetera, I revealed everything. I described, lots of indirect questions here, you need to go all the way down for edoqui. I taught, I explained, I described what he had done that night. I described them right back at the beginning. Look at this sort of Ciceronian structure of sentence, the periods, etc., etc. I described what he had done that night, where he had been, where he had arranged for the next night, constituisset, what he had decided. Don't forget the difference between constituo and constituo. Quem ad modum esset, what he had arranged for the next night. What or how the plan of the whole war had been laid out to him. What he arranged the next night, and how the plan of the whole war had been laid out. Quem ad modum esset. How the plan, the ratio of the whole totius belli, and how the plan of the totius belli of the whole war had been laid out to him. Cum hesitaret, temporal clause, had been laid out by him, been laid down by him. Since he was hesitating and he was trapped, causal clause I've gone for here, since he was hesitated, cum teneretur, since he was trapped, I asked why he was hesitating, I asked why he hesitated to go where he had long been preparing to go. I asked why he was hesitating. I asked, quae sivi quid dubitaret, indirect question again, why he was hesitating to go where he was long preparing. Where he was long preparing to go. When I knew that the arms, all the anaphora and things like that, when I knew that the arms, cum, when, scirem, when I knew that the, right back at the beginning, that the arms, the axes, the sequires, I'm not going to go through each bit, the fasces, the trumpets, tubas, the military standards, the signa militaria, when I knew that silver eagle, to which qui he had even made a shrine in his own house, had been primissam esse, had been sent on. Was I sending into exile a man whom I had seen to have started upon war? Was I ejikiebam? Was I hurling out into exile a man whom I videram had seen to have started upon war? War ought to be, o bellum magnopere per timiscendum, a war to be greatly feared. But here, gerund, a war ought to be greatly feared, cum, when Catiline is going to have, cum Catilina is going to have, habituatus present participle, when Catiline is going to have his army praetorium, his bodyguard of prostitutes. Now, Romans, nunc quilites, now Romans, draw up Now, Romans, draw up your guards. We are able to learn, there we go, that was a little pause there, sorry. We're able to learn how low they are lying. Nunc illos qui in urbe. Now, to those who have remained in Rome, and especially to those who have been left in Rome by Catiline as a threat both to the city and to all of you. So now, to those who have remained in Rome, and especially to those who have been relicti sunt, left by Catiline in the city, as a threat both against the city and against both as a threat against the city and against all of you, I want to reiterate my warning. For although there are enemies, although there are enemies, still they were born citizens. For quamquam sunt hostes, for although they are enemies, tamen still they were born citizens. My former mercy, if it seemed lax for anyone, there's the monetos etiam. I also want to reiterate my warning. My former clemency, if it seemed too lax for anyone, my former ad hoc lenitas, if it seemed too lax to anyone, it was only waiting for that. It was only waiting, expectavit, it waited only for that which was lying hidden to burst out. For the future, no longer can I forget that this is my fatherland, that I am the consul of these men. Nice tricolon here. For I am not able to forget, for what is left for the future, I am not able to forget that this hanc esse indirect statement, that this is my fatherland, that I am the consul of these people, and that I must either live with them, here's the gerund of obligation and transitive, that I must vivendum, that I must either mihi vivendum, that I must either live with these men, or that I must die on their behalf, or die for them. The city gates are not guided. Nullus est, there is no guard of the city gates. Nullus insidiator viae. The city gates are not guarded, the road is not watched. If they want to leave, if qui exire, if someone wants to leave, I am able to connivere, I am able to turn a blind eye. But if anyone makes a move in the city, if anyone makes a move in the city, if I have detected any plan or attempt, anything of plan or attempt, ulum, any plan or conatum or attempt, if I've detected any plan or attempt against our fatherland, let alone any factum, any deed. So if I have detected any plan or attempt against the fatherland, non modo, let alone any factum, any deed, senetet, let alone any deed, he will find that there are vigilant consuls in this city. He will find, sentiet, that there are in this city vigilantes consules, vigilant consuls, that there are outstanding magistrates, incomparable magistrates. There is a brave Senate, a fortem senatum. There are weapons. There is a place of execution where our ancestors, where our nostri maiores, where our ancestors, which our ancestors wanted to be a penalty, a penalty for the heinous, for the awful crimes of the awful manifestorum scelum, for the awful crimes when they have been exposed, for the awful crimes. Atque haec omnia. In all these measures, I will ensure, atque haec omnia, in all these things, I will ensure that a major crisis is resolved with the minimo motu, with the least disturbance. In all these things, I will ensure that a major crisis is resolved with the minimo motu, with the least disturbance, that all the serious dangers are averted, that the pericula summa, that the most serious dangers are averted without nullo, without a state of emergency, and that the most bitter, and the bellum intestinum, and that the most bitter and widespread civil war within the memory of man, and that the most bitter and widespread civil war post hominum memoriam, crudelissimum, in the memory of man, is handled with one single civil magistrate, literally togaed man, togaed leader, with one single civil magistrate as your imperatore, as your general. All those different things is there saying, I will ensure all of these different things. Quod ego sic administrabo. So that next bit, as general theology. I will handle the situation in such a way, citizens. Quod ego sic idmana. I will handle, Ali, here we have a connecting relative. I will handle this, citizens, so that if it is possibly able to be avoided, not even to, I will handle this, citizens, so that if it is able to happen in any way, not even any common criminal will suffer in this city a penalty for his crime. Not even improbus, a single dishonest man, criminal, will suffer a punishment for his crime. But if, however, the extent of the conspiracy now revealed, sed si, the extent of the conspiracy now revealed, if the danger that threatens our fatherland, if the danger, the periculum, threatening our fatherland, deduxerit, has compelled me to abandon, forces me to abandon this state of leniency, of mercy, of clemency, then I will certainly see to it. I will certainly see to that. And aim that might be thought virtually hopeless in so extensive an aim, which may seem impossible, virtually hopeless in so extensive and intam, insidioso, and treacherous, scarcely to be hoped for, scarcely possible in such an extensive and treacherous war, that no patriot dies, that no good man dies, and that by the punishment of only a few, and that with the punishment of paucorum of only a few, you are all going to be safe. Indeed, I make this promise, my citizens. Indeed, I promise these things to you, my citizens. Reline fretus. Where is fretus? It's coming right somewhere. Reline, oh, here we go, fretus at the beginning of the line. Reline not upon my good sense or upon any human wisdom, not upon my prudentia, neque humanis consulis, or any human wisdom, but upon the many clear omens, but upon the multis, the many, not doubted, upon the many clear omens of the immortal gods, under the guidance of whom I entertained these hopes and embarked upon this policy, under the guidance of whom, literally, with the guidance with them with whom as leaders, under the guidance of whom, ingressus, imagine sum, I entered upon this hope, and I embarked upon this sententiam, this policy. No longer, as once was their practice, are these men guarding us, are these people guarding, are they, the gods, no longer, as was once their practice, are they guarding us from afar. No longer, those who are no longer, quondam rather, as they were once accustomed to do, are they guarding us from far away, from longinquo, from far away, against an externo hostate, against a foreign and distant enemy, rather against an externo and longinquo. So no longer, as once they're accustomed to do, are they guarding procul from far away against an external and far off enemy, but they are present at our side, and they are defending their temples and the city's buildings with the protection of their divine power. That they are here, and they are protecting the temples and the walls of the city by their own agency and with their own divine power, with the protection of their divine power. But here at our side, they defend the temples, the city's buildings, with the protection of their own divine power. You ought to pray, citizens, that these gods, you ought to pray that these gods, quos vos cudites, you ought to prepare, you ought, debetis implorare, you ought to pray, citizens, that these gods, who have wished that the city be the most beautiful, the most prosperous, and the most powerful in the world, who have wished the city to be pulcherrimam, florentissimam, potentissimam, who have wanted, voluerunt, the city to be those things, the most beautiful, the most prosperous, the most powerful in the world. And now that the forces of her foreign foes, and now that all the forces, ablative absolute here, omnibus copis, of her enemies, that all the forces of her enemies have been conquered by land and by sea, you ought to pray to them, you ought to implorare, you ought to pray to them. Have I forgot another one? Oh yes, sorry, and precari and venerari, you ought to pray to them, to worship them, precari, to pray to them, to worship them, to implore them, that those who'd wanted, etc., that we said, You ought to pray to them, to worship them, to implore them to defend the city, to defend her from criminal attack by the most wretched. You ought to pray to them to defendant, indirect command here, to defend them, to defend the city from the wicked attack, from the criminal attack by the most wretched, of her citizens. Very well done. I will see you all next lesson. Gosh, that was a long one. Well done, everyone. 20 whole minutes. We're not getting those back, are we? Anyway, see you next lesson. Bye.